we'll get the session rolling. We'll probably get a few people hopping on, here and there as the evening continues. But, to start off, we've got a good diverse group. We've got some contributors and we've got some individuals that are still at different spots within that transition timeline. So going back to addressing the kind of general concept, the idea here is to produce information and provide a network of resources and advocates and information for individuals that are in the transition process. So, we've got individuals like Micah, who's still on active duty and starting to plan early. Individuals like Craig, who have dropped their Appendix J, starting the process. Individuals like Paul, who's coming to the end of his skill bridge and is struggling to decide which offer letter he's going to accept for his next career. And then we've got, like I said, the contributors like Lance, Jimmy, Charmaine, and Joanna that are here as resources for those transitioning. So, the audience size varies from month to month, but as we know, the impact is not just to the individuals that are on the call, but we record these, we put them on our YouTube channel. We've got a Discord server. Going into 26, we're going to be launching new platforms for spreading the word. So the reach is far beyond what you have on the call here. And that's not to take away from the significance and importance and how much we appreciate the individuals that do hop on the calls. But just want to emphasize, what we do here and the information that we're sharing. We do have metrics on our YouTube channel. We get lots of views throughout the week. We get some emails. Even some of our contributors have either collaborated amongst each other. Like I know Joanna and Charmaine have developed a good working relationship. And I think both of you have been contacted by, individuals that have participated. I know Jimmy and Lance, you guys are working with individuals that have participated and have already been contacted. So, again, just reiterating that we really believe in what we're putting together here and to express, especially at this time of year, how grateful we are for the contributors and for the participants because, I think we're serving a good cause. The kind of narrative is we're trying to right that imbalance between accession and transition and just acknowledge that the transition process, it's a long process. It's a difficult process. So not only do we bring on contributors like Jimmy and Lance that can help you with some of the objectives of transition, like getting access to your records and working through VA claims, but we also bring in experts like Joanna and Charmaine that can help you learn to cope with the stress of transition, not only the added things you have to accomplish, like the transition itself, it becomes almost a full-time job, right? But then the stress of what does life after the Marine Corps look like? People struggle with loss of identity, loss of tribe, loss of purpose. So, we help find that new identity and purpose. We also provide resources, in wellness, nutrition, mental health to kind of help get through that. So, just laying all that out as kind of a synopsis, because tonight is really a special night because we're going to reflect on the past year and all the things that we've covered that encompass that entire support model, entire support network that really goes across the whole spectrum of like, okay, I'm thinking about retirement or I'm planning for retirement like Micah might be, to, okay, I've dropped my Appendix J and my EAS is a couple months away to where Craig's at, to individuals like myself and Desmond who are, all right, my retirement date was a couple years ago, but I'm still figuring out how to transition and how to get back into the swing of things. So, tonight's going to be an exciting night. And then, so we'll recap everything that we covered in 25, and then we'll talk a little bit about 26. And as usual, there'll be time for conversation, questions, and networking at the end. So with all that, I'll go into the quick disclaimers, and then I'll check with Abigail to make sure I didn't leave anything out. But, first thing is we are recording. And as you heard me mention, so we record these, we're going to post them to our YouTube channel. We're going to post it to LinkedIn. We've got a Discord server. And the idea is that the conversation here doesn't only benefit those of us that are on the call participating, but it benefits a broader audience, and that the information is accessible for other individuals to go back and look at that. So just keep in mind that we are recording and this will be posted. The other thing that we like to throw out and make sure we cover is, there's IDP logos here. Going into 25, going into 26, you'll stop seeing the IDP logos and we'll start seeing the Strive logos. But up to this point, it has been resourced. and put together by IDP. So, but we always like to make sure that we know this is not for business development or recruiting. This is just an opportunity for us to give back to the community. So, just throwing it out there. Remember, this is not, a business pitch or business development or recruiting or anything. This is for us as veterans working together and supporting each other. And then, like I said, we'll hit the 9 o'clock hour. We usually have it scheduled for 1 hour, but sometimes we bleed over and we keep the conversation going. But if at any time you got to drop off and come back on, we like to create a very relaxed, casual environment. Sometimes people have kids, sometimes people have dogs, sometimes people come in and drop off. So whatever it is, don't feel stressed out. Just take in what you can and participate when you can. Abigail, was there anything else that we normally cover that I left out?
The only thing I can say is, only share information that you're comfortable with being shared publicly. But aside from that, that's it.
Yeah, good. All right, so before I start rolling through, does anybody else have any initial comments or questions or anything to throw out to the group before we kind of start rolling through the slides and taking a little trip down memory lane? Going once, going twice. All right. So we'll jump right in and we'll start scrolling through the slides. All right, let's see. All right. So yeah, like I already mentioned, we're going to do a little quick review. Those of you that have been participating since the beginning, you've probably seen this referred to in a couple different ways. We kind of started in 2023 when Lou and I were retiring, and we started having calls, just the two of us, talking about things that we were going through. And they were like, hey, you know what? Let's call him in. He's also going through it. And so it's grown and it's turned into what you see now. So for a while, there was just a couple individuals on a call. And then we started calling it the virtual happy hour. Over time, we call it the retirement and separation social hour. And pretty soon we'll start referring to it as Project Strive, which will be its own entity and a nonprofit. But today we're going to celebrate insights, share knowledge, and continue to build connections. So thanks everyone for coming. Like I said, we're going to jump through the year, kind of look back. And part of it too is lessons learned. So not only are we taking a look back, but I want, if you have any positive feedback or you have anything to add, whether it's from one of the collaborators like Joanne or Jimmy and Lance, or if it's individuals that have listened, if you've got something that maybe was left out or maybe something you really enjoyed, you want to make sure we carry forward. We want it to be a look back, but also kind of with that lessons learned approach where we're talking about how we can make it better going forward. So like it says here, we're going to connect, prepare for the next steps. Like I said already, clarify any questions, learn from the guest speakers if they have anything to add, and then reflect on the year and try to make it better going forward. So this is just a quick snapshot of what we covered in 25. Like I've already kind of touched on, we tried to take this from the very beginning and say, okay, it takes you anywhere from 18 months to 2 years to become the Marine that you're supposed to be. You go through boot camp, OCS, whichever route you take. You go to MOS school, you go to follow-on schools, MCT, TBS, and then on the way out the door, you get a 5-day class, right? Now, it's a fire hose in those 5 days, and you cover a myriad of topics. So what we've tried to do is draw those topics out and go further in depth on those topics, and then not only just talk about them, but connect resources and professionals that can kind of help you through that. So through the course of the year, we kicked off. Lance put together an extremely helpful checklist that covered all of the topics from TRS and more, with links and things like that. So we'll show that again. And remember, that is available on our website. It is available on our Discord. So there's lots of places to see that checklist, but it's just a great tool to start with. And so from there, we talked about maximizing your benefits, navigating VA resources. So that obviously is one of the top things that transitioning service members think about, is like, how do I make sure that I maximize my VA compensation and get my VA claim in? So we talked about that early on. And then, we talked about health and health insurance. We had some advisors come on in March because, again, that's something that we're not used to. Most of us that have been in for 20 years, hey, I've been on TRICARE for my entire adult life. They tell me when to go to medical. Everything's covered because I go to a military treatment facility. Now you're telling me, okay, I got to go to the VA. I have to go to TRICARE. Should I choose a supplemental for my new employer, right? Not everybody understands that it's not an either or. You don't have to choose TRICARE or VA. You can use both, right? So we had that session and we talked about that. And so those are two of the main things in the transition. And then in addition to that, in April, we brought in some career recruiters, Jake and Daniel, who both happen to be former, or prior Marines. And they started their own company and they shared some insight on, resumes, recruiting, and that aspect of it, and kind of career preparation. So that was a good session. And then we just continued to move forward. We brought in, in May, we talked about taking your military skills and transitioning those and applying them to a future career. And then in June is when we really started that, how I mentioned before. Now, not only do we want to deal with the objectives you have to achieve, but we want to better prepare you to be able to handle that, right? And we had Joanna come on for a great session. I can tell you that several of the simple little modifications that Joanna suggested were quickly adopted by some of the IDP personnel and others. Things as simple as drinking a glass of water before you drink your coffee, getting some sunlight early in the day, breathing techniques. And, that's what I thought really we started getting into some of the really powerful stuff, because it's not only preparing you for transition and giving you tools, but acknowledging that it's difficult and how do you deal with it? How do you better take care of yourself so that you can deal with it? So Joanna, anything that you want to add? And we've got a couple slides later, but that I thought was one of my favorite sessions, because you not only presented it and you stressed the emphasis of self-care and wellness, but you gave it to us in such a simple way. Like, here's 5 things you can do, and I think all of them took less than 5 to 10 minutes of your day. And like I said, I know lots of our staff and lots of the people that are on that call gave positive feedback. So Joanne, you have anything to add or say regards to your session?
I mean, the only thing I would just say is, you hit the nail on the head, Jim. It's just, I really just want to stress to people that it can be just really simple strategies that are implemented over time. It does not have to be an hour in the gym. It does not have to be crazy detoxes. It's just literally just implementing super simple stuff that when we get busy, we just forget about. And it's just kind of keeping those things top of mind, and they can just really make, they can just be really beneficial to us over time if we're consistent with very simple strategies. Yeah.
I mean, one of my favorites that I still am pretty consistent on, I won't say I do it every day, but is that the water with the lemon and the salt, do that before my coffee, and it feels great to do. So, and if you weren't on for that one, it's in our library. Go back and watch Joanna's session from June, and we will hopefully have her back again for our next round in the coming year. So, Joanna, thanks. And it was your session that you talked about fitness snacks, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like you said, a lot of us are obsessed with, okay, if I'm going to work out, I got to go to the gym and I got to do that full hour. But it's like, actually, there are lots of evidence that now suggests that a quick 5-minute workout multiple times a day, I like how you call it fitness snacks. It's like, just get in what you can when you're working, take a break, do 20 push-ups, 10 pull-ups, and then that's your fitness snack, and then do another one later on, right? So I really like that part of it too.
Yeah, and I mean, the evidence is also showing that if you can just take like a 10-minute walk after your meals, it can really help to stabilize your blood sugar too. So it's like, you're not having the peaks and the valleys all day long. So yeah, even just stuff like that. I mean, body weight air squats or, like incline push-ups, anything you can do in between calls or meetings. I mean, it really does add up. And the other thing I work with people on is like, just try to release that all or nothing mentality, because, like you said, the exercise snacks, they do add up. And if you can do, 5 to 10 minutes an hour throughout your day, that's longer than an hour you would have spent at the gym anyway. So yeah. Totally beneficial just to take things in small chunks.
Yeah. No, I love that. And you can lose sight of that quickly, that if you do a quick workout once every hour, cumulatively it adds up to more than an hour in the gym, right? So it's a great point. All right, so that brought us to June, halfway through the year. Thanks, Joanna. Does anybody have any questions or anything else to add to Joanna's session or some of the comments she made? Okay, so then we rolled into July and we got kind of back onto the objectives, right? What do we need to accomplish? And we had Marissa come on. Abigail, Marissa was from your local VA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And again, another great resource. Sorry she couldn't make it tonight, but I think we've got her consistently in our network and probably have her back again. And, you know, that's part of this too, is making those direct connections with the agencies that advocate for us and do things for us. So we had a couple of different individuals from the VA participate through the first half of the year. And then in August, we kind of got a 2-for-1 because we brought Charmaine in, right? And not only did she share insights on wellness, and I'm going to let her chat in a minute about kind of her niche in, you know, the busy, how do you fit in fitness when you've got a busy schedule in different parts of life. But she also shared insights on entrepreneurship, which is great for a lot of our veterans that are getting out. You know, she can talk about her entrepreneurship experience here in a second, but, you know, commend what you've done, Charmaine, and grateful to have you in the network as a contributor, a fellow entrepreneur, and a, you know, health and wellness expert. You know, again, some of the things that I thought were, you know, really exciting about your session, Charmaine, is, you know, you shared your experience about, okay, you had to make that critical decision of like, I'm going to go all in on this business because you were trying to be an entrepreneur, trying to do multiple other things at once. And it was, you know, you kind of had that epiphany that like, okay, this is what I believe in. I got to go do this. And then, you know, kind of finding that focus for your business. And I think I've got it right. You know, it's that targeted, you know, that military spouse, mom, that busy, you know, mother over 40. Like, how do you still maintain your fitness level? So Charmaine, I'll let you jump in and chime in and just make sure that I represented it correctly and add any amplifying comments you have.
No, you actually you hit the nail on the head there. It's I had to decide if I wanted to keep trying to be an entrepreneur while also being a full-time contractor, and that entrepreneurship became a hobby instead of a job. So I had to figure out what was more important to me, what I was currently doing in financial management, or did I really want to give my business my full focus because it wasn't a business, it was a hobby. So once I made that transition, then of course it's that whole, who do you serve? And it's not just who do you serve, what sets you apart from everyone else. So I just tapped into my own life because that's what I know best, right? Our own experiences. And it's, hey, I'm a busy woman over 40, and that's really something that you don't see in the fitness realm. You see the young 20-something on the covers of the magazine, and whether it's fitness, wellness, or nutrition, that's really the target area of who the fitness industry is geared towards. So using myself and all the women that I know, you know, whether they're still active duty, whether they're military, whether they're stay-at-home moms, we're more than likely over 40, we're all busy. Our busy looks different, but that doesn't make us, that doesn't make one person less busy than the other, but we all still have fitness and health and wellness goals that we want to strive for. So.
Yeah, no, thanks, Charmaine. I appreciate that. And again, to anybody that didn't get the opportunity to be on that call or that session when we had Charmaine, it's in our library. And, just like Joanna, she has offered, open communication from anybody in the network, get their contact information from Abigail or myself, or I think it's available, whether it's entrepreneur guidance on being an entrepreneur or just understanding more about what Charmaine might offer, and I love the fact that two of our collaborators or two of our contributors are now working together and have developed a relationship. I know Joanna and Charmaine are developing their own, kind of relationship on the side. So thanks again, Charmaine, and congratulations on all that you've achieved with your business and your endeavors. So does anybody have any questions or anything for Charmaine?
I was just going to bring up a point that I remembered, Charmaine, that you said about, you know, the entrepreneurship journey and like sowing the seeds and like, you know, things won't flourish immediately. If I'm remembering that kind of correctly. And I just think it speaks just really to anybody who's an entrepreneur who started a business, right? It's like, it's probably never going to go as quickly as you think it's going to, or that you want it to. But with the small, consistent steps, just like kind of what we talk about in all aspects of our business, it just resonated with me so much because it's just like a daily reminder to me of, you know, we're planting seeds, we're speaking to people, we're, you know, telling people what our message is. And sometimes it just takes time and we just have to be patient and focused, and the results will come.
Yeah, no, and Joanna, it's great. And it's great because it's kind of like a byproduct, you know, that like an unintended byproduct that like, not only we have a great network of individuals providing resources to veterans, but now we're all supporting each other because you're an entrepreneur, Des is an entrepreneur, Jimmy and Lance are entrepreneurs, like IDP, Charmaine, you know, so now we also have each other to help and bounce ideas off of, and we're all at just a little bit different phases of that journey in itself, right? So, and we're all bringing that together to support our veterans and our brothers and sisters in arms as they transition. So it's pretty inspiring. Thanks, Joanne. All right. So then in August, we had Charmaine, and then in September, we jumped back into internships and fellowships. So we're getting that good balance of, you know, wellness and coaching and how do you develop, but then getting back to concrete materials like internships and fellowships. You know, everything from SkillBridge, which, you know, IDP is an approved SkillBridge partner, and we've had several individuals, you know, Paul, who's on the call, has been in our SkillBridge program, to fellowships, but those important opportunities to take advantage of if you can. And you know, we'll continue to bring in more speakers and more resources where we just show everybody what's available out there. You know, we're not trying to push anybody in a particular direction, but just make everyone aware of what's available out there for internships and fellowships, both, you know, like SkillBridge type where you're on active duty, or post active duty to help you with that career transition. And then in October, we came back to the wellness aspect, but we kind of went from where Joanne and Charmaine were really talking a lot about physical wellness and how to take care of your body. And we brought in Dr. Smith, right? Dr. Janelle Smith, right, Abigail? So
Yes.
we brought in Dr. Janelle Smith from the VA, who is a mental health specialist. And we really talked about what is, you know, sometimes not an easy subject, but mental health, not only from your time on active duty to the stressors of transition to post-transition, you know, so she was a great guest speaker because she had dealt with everything from treating people while they're still on active duty. And she serves herself in the Army as a doctor for the Army. And then she also serves at the VA. So she's treated people, you know, individuals from all ends of the spectrum, to like still on active duty, dealing with recent mental health issues, to individuals in the VA system. And so again, just a great contributor. Abigail, another one that you brought to the table, you know, the muscle, the brains behind our operation here has always been Abigail. So, you know, thank you, Abigail, for all that you do. And unfortunately, Dr. Smith couldn't be on tonight, but just like the rest of the network, she's available. And if you missed her session, go check it out. It was incredibly informative. And again, she was super enthusiastic about continuing to be a part of the network and open communication. So then after that, we jumped back into nuts and bolts type stuff. And, you know, what I thought was one of our most informative and most well-received sessions with Jimmy and Lance. And I know they've had follow-ups and they're helping individuals in our network already with, you know, different aspects. So, and again, going down that same theme as Charmaine and Joanna, not only are they here in the network, but they're budding entrepreneurs. They're taking the skills and their particular level of expertise and turning it into a business model, but then they're also volunteering their time to not only, you know, build a business off of it, but give back and provide services. So, you know, Rights to Records is their company. We've got some slides that we'll share a little bit about that later. But, you know, again, just a great resource with Lance and Jimmy's experience, both as Marines that have experienced, I'll say, use the word struggles that led them to see the purpose behind why they should provide this service. So, Lance and Jimmy, I'll turn it over to you guys. Anything that you want to add or plug from your session, from Rights to Records, you know, and kind of your feedback on the entire process and format here. Over to you guys. Yeah, meet Lance.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so Jimmy and I, we started Rights to Records. We specialize in the Freedom of Information Act and Privacy Act, and we also do some ancillary services with federal employees and military members, veterans, with different legal support and boards and litigations. I could definitely relate to what Charmaine was saying with the whole trying to balance a full-time job as well as being an entrepreneur. I find myself in that boat right now, trying to figure out what that's going to be and kind of how do I shape that. But essentially what we do is we work directly with veterans to cut through a lot of the red tape to help give the tools to help locate and access your records. So we do that with the FOIA and the Privacy Act. And again, we specialize in a lot of different items related to military legal support. Jimmy, you got anything?
Just as a follow-up there, you know, we provide pro bono services in requesting your OMPF and your personnel files, along with any medical records that you have, with the goal of ultimately reviewing, correcting, and gaining better access to those records. We do also other services that are related, but we can attack those. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you guys both for being part of the network. Again, thought your session was incredibly valuable and generated a lot of interest and follow-up, and we look forward to hopefully having both of you and Rights to Records in our continuing network and continuing as contributors going into the next year. And then, you know, here we are today looking at a review of the topic. So, you know, with that, again, I just want to really, you know, thank all the contributors that are on, all those that couldn't be on. You know, it's the subject matter experts. One thing about Strive, Rash, VHH, whatever it's grown into, is we've always said, like, hey, look, we're not subject matter experts in any one of these things, but what we're trying to do is build a network of individuals that can provide resources and also just a safe place where you can ask questions, you know, like-minded individuals that have been retired for a year or more to individuals that are just starting to consider their retirement. And so it's good to be able to, you know, hear the stories. And I appreciate everybody that has shared, you know, a personal experience or a personal story on your own, you know, transition experience or whatever, because, you know, I know when I was going through mine a couple of years ago, that was kind of one of the best things that I got, was listening to other people share kind of their story, their narrative. And, you know, you're never going to get the same answer from two different individuals, you know, whether it's people advising you on SBP and some people say, oh, don't do it, it doesn't make any sense financially. And other people are say, oh, you got to do it, right? Or, hey, I went with TRICARE Prime, or I went with TRICARE Remote, or whatever it might be, right? But we all get to make our own decisions, but having this type of network is beneficial because you get on the calls, you listen, and then in between that, you know, throughout the course of the month, you've got a network of individuals you can call up. Some that are just other Marines trying to figure it out like you, and that has its own level of comfort, and some that are experts in certain topics like Lance and Jimmy that can help you get your records or figure things out, or like Joanna and Charmaine that can help you figure out some coping mechanisms, how to take better care of yourself while you're going through transition and after transition. So again, just really grateful to have this group of individuals assembled, and look forward to bringing as many people back as we can in the coming year. So yeah, we kind of already touched on this slide. You know, I highlighted, you know, as we were going through the individuals that have returned tonight, order of appearance. You know, the one thing that I kind of breezed through at the beginning. So Lance, I just want to check back in with you because, you know, again, I want to highlight how much work you did on that initial checklist and how valuable that is. Anybody that's in the process right now, like Craig, or Paul or Micah, that's thinking about it, you know, when you're like, oh man, I got to go out there and figure out what are all the things I need to do? What's the checklist I need to follow? And I'm telling you, you can find probably 100 different checklists. You know, Lance spent, you know, I can't tell you how much time, but he brought a bunch of these different checklists together into one product And Lance, hopefully you and I can get together soon and update it, make sure it's ready to go for the next year, because I'm sure there's some new things, and we can pull in resources. But Lance, because I kind of glossed over it before, is there anything that you want to add or kind of expand on with the checklist? Because we are going to use it again, and it's probably going to be our first session again in the next year, because it's such a great starting point. It's so comprehensive and covers everything.
Yeah, no, just as I was getting out, I realized, and I know you shared your kind of, to put it simple, just dumbed down version of the checklist. So I took that and I ran with it.
Yeah.
And tried to have that one-stop shop for service members getting ready to separate, retire. It is somewhat tailored towards the Marine Corps, but most of the concepts are universal to all branches. So whether you're retiring after 30 years, ESing after your first enlistment, I found it to be a great resource. And just kind of some of the different things I wanted to call out was, the checklist begins at 48 months out, but it's never too late to start. But obviously, the sooner the better. I had a short fuse separation, so I had about a 4-month window to work with, and I still found it very useful, and I'm happy where I landed on the other side. And I would just recommend anybody going through the transition process right now, or knows anybody that's going through it. Some of my bits for success was just seeking out a mentor, someone who can assist you, advise you through your transition. Make sure you audit all of your records, the medical and OMPF. Do you have everything? And I recommend saving both electronically, printing out physical copies and creating binders, and start your medical prep ASAP. Go through your whole medical record, get familiar with the VA disabilities and ratings. And while you're still in, schedule your appointments to address anything that you need to, establishing that nexus with service for any potential medical issues. Get your sleep study, get your imaging, all of these different things. It's all going to feed into your BDD submission to the VA, which you can do up to 180 days prior to separation. The more you get done in service, the smoother and the faster the process will go with the VA examiners. And ultimately, it's going to improve your VA rating outcome.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Lance. I appreciate the commentary. And again, you have a lot of insight from your own personal experience. Appreciate you being willing to share that, and then appreciate that you've taken your personal experience and trying to turn it into an avenue for you to give back and advise others. So, and like you said, man, I'm the same as you. Having a good network, having some mentors and people to bounce things off of is invaluable. Like a checklist gets you so far, which you created a great checklist, but once you've got that and then you start diving into it, having somebody to reach out to and say, hey, on my checklist it says, get into this, and having that's what this network is all about, right? So each of those subjects, we're trying to bring people in that can help us navigate each of those challenges. All right. Thanks, Lance. Appreciate it. So speaking of the checklist, here's a quick snapshot. So the next few slides, we'll kind of gloss through these real quick. But it's just to kind of highlight some visuals of each of the things we kind of just ran through as we walked through the month, So this is a quick snapshot of the checklist. Like Lance said, it starts 48 months out up here, and it goes all the way through, and you can see the incredible amount of detail, even broken out by category and bucket. Like, is this a family related topic, an education related topic? And then, there's the colors, Lance, I think that if you remind me if I'm wrong, that had to deal with the timeline or the necessity level of doing each of those.
Yeah, I think the red ones, if I recall, were mandated prerequisites for separation.
Yeah. Things that like your command will make you do. And that's why this was important, right? Because that's what I remember now is like the red things are the things your command will make you do, right? And you think like, oh, well, my command will advise me and they'll take care of me. But like the amount of things you have to do versus the things that are on your check out sheet, right? Like there's so much more than that. So I think one of the points we made, Lance, was like, hey, well, it's good to follow the direction of your command. Don't rely on them to completely prepare you, right?
100%.
Yeah. All right. And then, the maximizing your benefits, again, just this is a quick picture. This product is available in our library. Go out and check it out if you're in the transition pipeline. But it gives you some really good links to follow and good resources. This was from our February session. In March, again, we talked about healthcare, TRICARE, CHAMP VA. I think one of the biggest things was to remember that, you got to do what's best for you and your family as you're choosing your benefits. And remember that, it's not an either or. you know, a lot of us use VA and TRICARE simultaneously and for different things and for different levels of treatment. And then, yeah, we had Daniel and Jacob. We talked about these guys. Really, really informative and really good. And there's their website. You know, what they're not on tonight, but they were very open to communication. So if you're looking for industry best practices, what are the current hiring trends? I mean, these guys got all the data and information and tips on how to make yourself more marketable and more competitive. So highly recommend reaching out to them. And then in May, again, unlocking your future, we talked about, you know, another thing that I want to highlight here that I didn't dive into earlier, but I see it on this slide now, is talking about the state and local. We're really going to emphasize that next year. There's a whole career field out there and a very high demand for financial managers and other individuals and people with military experience in state and local governments. We had Aaron Penny and Paul Landers come on, and both of them are working in state governments as comptrollers and budget officers and things like that. So, you know, that was another thing that was great as we had this session in May. We're going to go is we kind of feel sometimes as military personnel, we have this predetermined, well, I can either go federal contractor or I can go GS, but there's a lot of other options out there. And so we'll continue to unlock those. Talked about June, Blue Sky Nourishment Lounge. That's you, Joanna, right? Yep. And so again, thanks for being a contributor. And then, you know, here were some of the habits, the hydration before coffee, the morning sunlight, protein at breakfast, and bacon counts. I remember that from our discussion.
Bacon absolutely counts. You bet.
You won me over with bacon. I see Des smiling. He's in on that, right? And then 5 minutes of movement. Oh, and then there was another one, the phone outside of the bedroom. That's a big one. It's one that I haven't managed to overcome yet, Joanna, if I'm being honest.
I haven't fully managed getting it out of my bedroom, but I would recommend putting it on airplane mode when you go to sleep.
Yeah, and at least moving it further away from your head, right?
Exactly. Correct.
Okay. So keeping and then in July we talked about Marissa, Charmaine, entrepreneurship insights, and F3 got lots of good stuff going on, lots of good input there. Here's Charmaine's information. Again, you know, take a look at it right now, but you know, we always like to make sure that we also encourage individuals to support the entrepreneurs that come on here because they're here to support you as well. So Charmaine, anything to add?
No, just like what Joanna brought up earlier, just keep in mind the day you sow is not the day you reap. I think if there's anything I can say that you'll remember, it's that. So the day you sow is not the day you reap, but just keep sowing and knowing that you're going to get a good harvest.
No, I like that. I like that. Thanks, Charmaine. Another slide from Charmaine's checklist and some of her information. So again, this will be available. Her previous presentation is fully available, and then this additional information is going to be available LinkedIn and YouTube to follow on again and share the information with your network. And feel free to reach out to Charmaine. And then, we talked about internships and fellowships. We were to kind of breeze through some of this. Again, go back to this at any point to refer to it, but I already mentioned Dr. Janelle Smith, PhD from the West Virginia VA, and a fellow service member. Great resource. So please, you know, reach out to her if you didn't catch her session. And then Lance and Jimmy, you guys got anything else to add? We've got your slide deck here. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on these, but you know, I appreciate the session that you guys had. We've got your materials out here, and you know, please use this stuff, forward it to your contacts, because so many individuals, whether in service, transitioning, or after service, can benefit from the resources these guys provide. So Jimmy or Lance, any particular slide you want me to pause on, or anything you want to add?
Yeah, I would just say the pro bono, just to reiterate that, you know, we offer a free 45-minute consultation, and we'll go through, you know, whatever needs you have. Typically involves something you're trying to locate and hunt down. We'll help you, you know, give you the tools to access it. And from there, you know, we'll offer things like audits and discuss other follow-on services with you. Jimmy.
And just that we're a phone call, an email, or a visit to the website away. And can't say we're 24/7, but we're pretty close to it.
Yeah. And I know, I can share personal experience. I know one individual that attended that call, and Jimmy and Lance have already done a great deal to help them pro bono. Individual that had been separated for a long time and was struggling to get through their records, and is now on the right track to not only for multiple reasons benefit from their services, but to get their own VA rating set right. And then also after that, they're looking to become an entrepreneur and be able to get that SDVOSB certification. So, and like they say there at the bottom, they can do it all for you. I like those. All right. And then we just reviewed. So, again, we want to thank everyone for joining and participating in this review. Incredibly rewarding to kind of take a look back and see all the valuable information, all the great contributors that we had throughout the course of the year. And really just to look at like, wow, we can do this all again next year. We're going to try to break it down maybe into 2 6-month cohorts so that we repeat the information. So stand by for further guidance. But, an incredible amount of impact, an incredible amount of service provided over the course of calendar year 25, and a lot of momentum going into 26. So with that, we've heard from the contributors and we've heard, obviously, as usual, a lot from me. But I wanted to just, open the floor and thank a couple individuals that have been participating and, hopefully benefited. Micah, you've been on this for a long time. You're kind of at the far left end of the spectrum, thinking about retirement, haven't really dropped your appendix J, but kind of where you're at. And just appreciate your continued participation. Do you have any, feedback, looking back and kind of what we just covered the entire year going forward, do you have any feedback on, what we can do in 26 to make this better, or topics to add or anything, or any comments or questions for any of the contributors, Micah?
Hey, thank you, Jim. Some of the things that stood out to me are the little things like you talked about when we got the nutrition class. Like even me, I think about it in the morning when I wake up. Do I have time to drink water before I grab my coffee? I'm going to get coffee at work before I walk out the door. Little things like that kind of going to stick with me forever, just because of the nuance of what they are to help us mentally transition, or just our mental health throughout the day, throughout our lives. But the things that really drew me in the beginning was first knowing you and Lou. But then after the first session, I think it was one of the ones we talked about resume building. It was with Jerry, VA benefits, what to do. And then having those conversations about what the differences and the comparisons are to when you have healthcare, when you're in versus in service and out of service, but also what's going to make you marketable to civilian corporations and entities compared to the military based on your skill set and your experience. Those type of conversations, the resume building assistants, those guys, they helped out a lot. It really opened my eyes to a lot of things, but also being able to have candid conversations on here, as candid as can be, with just what people are going through. And I think that following up and doubling down on some of the same conversations will help if we just, do our best to expand the network throughout even the branch of services, other branches, not just Marines, because, all servicemen transition at some point, and we've all got a little bit more to offer from different experiences and different backgrounds. I think that'll probably take the conversation a different way and help get the wheels turning to help us come with some more innovative ideas and ways to help service members out.
No, yeah, thanks. Great, Mike. I appreciate the feedback. It's great to hear kind of what resonated with you, and to hear, your enthusiasm on going forward. So, again, if you've got suggestions or there's things that you want to have covered that weren't covered, your input is extremely valuable, because you're kind of still there with Marines that are going to be preparing for transition, or you yourself might begin preparing for transition. So keep in touch with the network. We hope to see you back on the calls going forward. And as always, in between calls, reach out. You're a valued, contributor as well, and a valued participant. So thanks. So kind of moving down the line, Paul, going to put you on the spot here as well a little bit. Someone who is at the end, Paul's going to be we've had his retirement ceremony. He's been in our SkillBridge program. He's been working on transition here for a while. And Paul, you actually EAS here at the end of this month, correct?
That's right, Jim.
Yeah. So as you're at the precipice of, and exiting active duty for real, you have any thoughts or comments, things that, you took away from your, and again, grateful and value your participation in this as well as in our SkillBridge program. But, anything that you want to share with the group or kind of, recommend that we use going forward?
Well, it's kind of one of those processes. I think everybody's path is their own, and no matter how advanced your checklist is, I think it kind of comes into where one step on there, one check in the box might be 3 sub checks of different things you have to do because snags you hit along the way. Even when we're talking about healthcare and things like that, I've come to realize that that's multiple phone calls, multiple stops in, and potentially a collection of misinformation along the way to try to figure out how to not to have gaps and things like that. People tell you shop for life insurance early. Not exactly how early, but what I just came to find out is where they tell you you're not going to get an exam or whatever, there's pretty much always an exam. And I guess the reason that they say do it early is they're going to look at your medical records regardless. But if you do it before you do the sprint approaching retirement, you kind of don't have that plethora of visits that you did to get all those issues addressed. So potentially you get a more premium benefit package as lower risk. With that, it also means you're paying a couple $100 extra a month in life insurance while you already have life insurance. So it's kind of a give and take sort of thing there, I guess. You hear these tidbits of advice and don't exactly know what it means or how it lays out. I don't know that I even look back at that with regret because I'm like, well, I don't know how much I was ever going to stomach paying for life insurance for the past couple of years just for what felt like no reason. But yeah, it's one of those that it's good to kind of have a group who all have shared experiences and their own unique paths of what's happened for them, what's worked for them, and what hasn't worked for them to be able to offer those sort of things.
Yeah, no, thanks, Paul. Those are great comments and kind of ties into kind of what Micah said before, right? Like having the professionals and the contributors like Joanna and Lance and Jimmy and Charmaine and everybody else come on, right? But then taking the second half of these conversations and they present their information, but then having other individuals ask questions or present stories and individual examples like you just did, that kind of multiplies the impact, right? And like Micah said and you said, it's just like, hey, I'm kind of more comfortable just asking a question around a group of other like-minded individuals and veterans that have gone through it. So, Paul, appreciate your participation and hope to have you come back and continue to share lessons learned like the ones that you just did. That's part of the beauty of Strive is that, it's you start as a participant who's learning and getting the assistance to going through it and then coming back and continuing to participate as someone who's now offering your own perspective and experience. There's still plenty to learn even after your EAS, but you've got a little bit more to share with individuals that are further left on the timeline. So thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. As we're coming up and approaching the hour, like I said, we normally hit, the hour mark, but sometimes the conversation will keep going. I did want to, just ping a couple other participants on the call. So Dez is a recent join to IDP. He's been out of the Marine Corps for a little while. Like I mentioned earlier, Dez is an entrepreneur himself. And Dez, just wanted to check in with you. You come from a little bit different community. That's one of the things that we hope to do in 26 is expand, the network and the audience from just, we're kind of financial manager centric. Now we've got manpower people, Lance, lawyers like Jimmy and other individuals, but, you coming from the maintenance community, anything, Des, that you took away from the couple of colleges you've participated in over the last couple months and anything that you want to add from your, entrepreneur experience?
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
got you loud and clear.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Jim. Well, it was kind of cool to be on this call. This is my first call like this where I saw this group. And I'm kind of like Lance, where I had a very short transition period as well. You know, mine was 4 months. And if I'd have had a group like this, you know, at that time, I think it would have been very beneficial. So that's cool. As far as the entrepreneur piece, I definitely resonate with, you know, what Joanna and Charmaine said about, hey, you know, you don't reap at the same time you sow. So I'm still in that, you know, sowing period. But again, you know, I heard somebody mention, I think it was Lance, you know, about getting a mentor, you know, so I like the like-minded group of individuals that are here right now, and just being connected to a network like this, I think is great. And as far as expanding out into, you know, a maintenance realm, you know, vice finance, you know, entrepreneurial mindset, you're always looking to expand, right? You know, in the right type of environment. So hopefully bring that to IDP and just keep everything moving. But I like everything that's going on here, you know, and I wish I would have been involved with it sooner.
Well, good. Yeah, and it's never too late, man. We're glad to have you on board, both in a professional capacity as part of IDP. Looking forward to Missing Link and IDP continuing to do good things together. And, you know, yeah, just share the information with your network. Guys like, you know, Master Van Buren and others that are starting to, in your community, they're going to be approaching transition. Let them know, right? I wish we were there for you when you were going through yours, but now we can pay it forward. So if you know other individuals are going to be starting up on the process, don't let them miss out on it. And again, you know, you and I have already established a professional relationship you know, as fellow entrepreneurs, we talk, but now you've got a couple others in your network now from this call, right? So share stories, share experiences with them as well. So, no, but thanks, Des, for hopping on. And then Craig, I wanted to touch base with you because again, like Des, I think this is your first call. You know, you and I chatted earlier. You are, you know, kind of the target audience here. You're one of the individuals in the throes of it, going through transition. So, you know, for you, just want to say, I know this was your first calls, but you know, feel free to engage with anybody here. Go back, look at the previous calls you might have missed, and I think from our conversation earlier, you got a couple months left of getting through it. So, you know, we're all here for you. We're all here to support you, and just, you know, give you a chance to share any thoughts or feedback that you might have had from your first call here, or also ask any questions because you know, like I said, you are in the throes of it. You're going through the transition right now. So Craig, if you got anything, we'd love to hear from you.
Thanks, Jim. I mean, I don't have a lot of valuable insights at this point. Like you said, I'm about, 7 months out from actual retirement, so I can't start my BDD yet, although I've sort of prepped that. So I'm just sort of getting into it now. So this is all great insight and great information. And so I'm just trying to be a sponge and kind of soak that up right now. While I have the time and can actually, put it to good use.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for hopping on. Greatly appreciated. All right. So yeah, as we wrap up here, we're approaching the hour mark. Again, I just want to stress my excitement, my gratitude, and, say it one more time. Most of you have heard us announce, going into 26 at some point. I think it's probably going to be close to the end of the first quarter, maybe end of March. We're going to target, actually launching this as its own independent nonprofit organization. It's going to go from, the RASH, the Retirement and Separation Happy Hour, to Project Strive, which stands for supporting transition and retirement through integration and veteran engagement. So Project Strive is going to get up and running. We're going to try to increase our reach. We're going to professionalize this. We're going to expand to Spotify. We're going to dress up, when we have these calls, we're going to take them and polish them up and turn them into more of a podcast, professional presentation. We're going to start going out, fundraising and everything. So, what we did here in 25 and what all of you contributed to is really laying the framework and the foundation for something that is, in the next year or so, it's going to be a defense-wide initiative. It's going to impact a lot of individuals. and the network's going to continue to grow. So I hope all of you take as much pride as I do in knowing that, you know, we have laid the foundation for something special that's going to help more and more service members over the course of time with the transition process. So, you know, again, incredibly grateful and excited to continue to work. For the contributors, we'll circle back. I hope to have you all back. You know, we'll update checklists, we'll update your materials, and we'll continue to try to increase the network, the audience that participates. Does anybody have any save rounds or alibis? And then, you know, as we roll into 9 o'clock hour, people are free to stay on and chat, or, you know, free to drop off or do what you got to do. So, Abigail, thanks for dropping that link to the library in the chat as well. So yeah, I think that's it for the formal part. Thank you. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy New Year. I hope everybody enjoys time with family. And then we'll get the invitation out for the January session. We'll pick up right where we left off in calendar year 26. Save rounds or alibis? Bueller?
I just wanted to say Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. Jim, thanks so much for including me in this amazing community of yours. And I hope you all have really happy holidays. And Jim, I hope you have a great trip to Florida. Have a happy birthday. And I hope you hear from your son really soon.
Thank you so much, Joanna. Me too.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, Craig, it's good to see you on here, man. Hit me up if you have any questions or anything I might be able to help you with.
All right. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
If anybody's still on, Lance and I will stay on if anybody wants to do a breakout, but we'll be here.
Thanks, everyone. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Jim. I hope you hear from your young one there soon. And congratulations again to you guys, and happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Bye, Charmaine. Thanks.
Bye.